No. I mean, I didn't know exactly how I would, in the short answer, no. But at the end of the day, it's not their fault. I mean, we're trying to really get them to see the game in a little bit different light with the movement and the being reactive to how you're being guarded. The spacing, we're way behind X and O wise when it comes to sets or actions and things of that nature. So that probably, I think the biggest thing for us is that I got to make sure that I don't make our expectations too high for where we're at right now or where we aren't. And I say that knowing we've got a game against a very good Division I opponent tomorrow night in UAB. But I love their attitude of getting better. And we just got to continue to build the right habits and do it more consistently. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Second row on the right. Curious, given the Big Ten and other places, what was your perception of the SEC, and maybe how has that changed? How's your the SEC maybe when you were, working in TV?
Oh, I think I've always had a lot of respect for the SEC and competing against it, knowing the coaches. We had games with Kentucky and people like that in the past. So if you're in college basketball, you're well aware of how good the SEC is. But what's happened in it the last couple of years, especially with the way that branding is too easy of a term. What they've done is and so is investing. They've really gone and brought this up a level. The coaches, the players, the whole thing. When you've got Greg Sankey running it and you have Dan Leibovitz inside running the basketball part of it, I think the hiring of Mark Whitehead was big. And then you had Mike Tranghese, who belongs in the Hall of Fame. He was our commissioner in the Big East. So when you start to look at the infrastructure they have for basketball, I don't think it can go anywhere but up, right? I mean, it's not a shock that it is. But to go from 3 teams 3 years ago, 5 teams 2 years ago, to 8 teams a year ago, that's incredible. And when we had a chance to get in this league, it wasn't a hard decision. I mean, you want to be in a league that's highly marketable for you to recruit in, for you to have attention in as far as for your program, be it a school that is really a big name school, not only in athletics but academics. We certainly got that. But then at the end of the day, you've got to compete against the best teams in the league. Now, how would I compare it to the other leagues that I've been in? It's too early for me to do that. But looking at it and having a respect for it, it's extremely high, and I don't think the SEC is going to take a backseat to any league at all this year. Well, I think there's very good potential, and I think that was a big part of having stronger interest in the job. So it's a matter of we just have to look around at the other sports there, not only football, but the other sports that are there too, that have made it, it's really cool to play in those sports in the SEC at Georgia. And we've got to continue to build that basketball-wise. And I think the most important thing we do right now is that we don't get away from what do we need to be successful when it comes to recruiting. And not just dash in and feel like we have to achieve this or that, but really get people that are going to be able to play the way that we want to play moving forward. And because winning in any league, there are a few common denominators. And I don't think there's any reason we can't build towards that at Georgia. We've got to continue to be in this pace right now of learning that and making progress in that, hopefully. But I don't think there's any question the potential there. And it doesn't just start with the SEC and how fertile Georgia is or how fertile the South is. Georgia is an unbelievably strong academic school. And I knew it was good walking in, but I had no idea how strong it was. I mean, it's up to 13th in the country, public universities. It was 16th a year ago. So when you're not in it on a day-to-day basis, maybe you don't understand that. Then you start to get in it, and you realize it's all here. We ought to be able to recruit all kinds of different ways, all kinds of different people, but people that can come in and help excel in our program for this league and also excel in the classroom. No, I think about that a lot, and I think that's where I always got to temper it back. And I can't let, and this, I don't want this to sound wrong, but I got to make sure the expectations aren't too high for them, from me. not outside expectations, but my expectations for them. We've got a lot to learn. They're really good people, and there's no doubt about that. And I credit the former staff for bringing in high quality people into the program. But ourselves are getting our program established in the style of play, the way that we want to play, and seeing the game the way that we want to see it. Being able to play with the pace, being able to utilize the tempo, the spacing, being able to play on both ends. It's going to take a little bit of time. So the most important thing we can do is make sure that we're building their fundamentals on a daily basis. Not only the basketball fundamentals, but then how we want to play and moving it towards that. And I think because we're spending so much time on that, and I mentioned this, we're way behind X and O-wise, or way behind in maybe sets or scheme or things like that, because we're really trying to make sure we're getting those fundamentals down. And I have to catch myself not trying to go too fast, but I also think I got to catch myself not trying to put undue expectations that they're not ready for. And we got to really find how we grow it, not just, go hard. We got to become a day-by-day program. And what that means is when you're day-to-day, you're all over the map. You might have a good day, you might have 2 good days, and all of a sudden you turn it around. Consistency of purpose, consistency of effort's been good. Consistency of purpose and how we get better has not been as good yet. And we got to that's the key, though. That's where you make your jump. So I can't answer the question, but I know it's a daily process to find the answer to that question.
Left side, second row. Coach, what do you feel like the year away did for you? And did you finally more motivated to get back into it?
Oh, I was motivated. Yeah, I mean, when our job was taken from us, we were in a good place as far as body-wise, mind-wise. It was just something that we dealt with there. So I never needed a break, and I think that's one of the reasons that I enjoyed the year, because I wasn't just going to sit around and think about it. We knew that we would go back at some point. I think once ESPN came, and once we got involved in that, then it was like I was really enjoying it. It wasn't like that daily pressure that you feel like, what job's going to open or what am I going to do? And my family got through that too, because, I mean, I've been married 25 years. My wife turned 50 this year. That was the first season she's never been a part of a team, ever. I mean, growing up in her family and then us being married, it was different for us. But our family did a great job of it. And to me, I think I learned a lot. I think I enjoyed it. I was around a lot of different situations. I thought I'd probably have a little more patience. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, especially on days like today. But I love it, right? I mean, we got to a point where we felt like, because we were enjoying where we were at, we were enjoying our life, we were enjoying the television, that we could really dig deep and say, okay, what do we want to find? And the number one thing was finding people that we could work with on a daily basis that understood what real support is. Support is not just your buildings and your financial part. Support is that daily support, two-way street support that you've got to get from your administration. And we felt that in 7 months. And we took a chance on that, and it's been a great chance that we took, just like they did with us, and we've really enjoyed it. So I think staying true to what was going to be important the next time is something we didn't want to get away from, and I don't feel like we did. Well, obviously you want to win, but like right now, we're not even close. And this isn't coach speak. We're not even close to being prepared to play a game when it comes to different things, when it comes to different situational things, when it comes to some of the X's and O's parts of it. So what we've got to go out there and do is make sure that we don't give too many keys to what's going to be important for us. They got a really fast backcourt, and we've got to make sure we do a great job of getting back in transition. People always tell you, don't give people more than 3 things. Don't give them more than 4 things. I think we got to really stay true to that and how we're judging this game tomorrow. And it's far too early to play, but I'm glad we're doing it. But again, it's still far too early to play. But it's for a good cause, and we're here to do this. And I think the bottom line is, can we play under fatigue without trying to take the game into our own hands individually? Can we continue to trust the ball movement, trust the system, and not have guys that kind of go off in their own direction because that's not the way we're going to be able to play. And I'm looking for consistency. You know, we don't have anything close to a set starting lineup right now. And they're competing against one another, but the bottom line is there's not enough consistency for somebody to step up and say, okay, Coach, you got to play me because I'm doing this, this, and this, and you can count on it. We're not there yet. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. We'll find out what tomorrow night is like. But that's where we're at. So getting 3 or 4 things that we can really look back at and say, okay, this is what we focused on. Did we accomplish them? And along the way, were we able to figure it out as we went along?
Coach, from a personnel standpoint, what are some of the challenges that you're presented with the roster that you've inherited and what you've got from the recruiting class in terms of where you want to take this team?
Consistent shooting. Consistent shooting, consistent range shooting. Really right now getting them to understand what spacing means to us. And again, it's not about the past. And you know, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the program. So it's more about, okay, this is the way we want to play. And that utilization of spacing, how we play out of the corners, how we read the ball but play off how we're being played. I think the next big thing, like right now, I'm scared to death to where our transition defense would be right now. We don't understand how important it is to switch ends. You know, we're starting to switch ends a little bit better on the offensive end. We're not quite grasped. We got to go back on the defensive end with that same sense of urgency. So just little things like that. But in answer to your question, it starts with the shooting, most importantly. Consistent shooting. I've embraced it. I mean, I knew that. It wasn't like Georgia was an unknown football program. So, like, I knew that walking in, and I embraced that. I think it's fantastic. I'm in a football family, so first and foremost, I always liked football before, but then when you marry into the Harbaughs, you really have no choice. So I've always looked at football. When I was with Tom Izzo at Michigan State, Nick Saban was taking over at Michigan State, so that was the one time that I was around that. So you got a chance to see that connection that Tom and Nick had there and be a part of that and see what happens when you got that kind of synergy between your 2 coaches like that. And then they also had Ron Mason, who was the hockey coach, you know, in the Hall of Fame, deceased now, but in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I always wanted something like that. And obviously that wasn't a choice we had at Marquette, but I wanted something like that. So I've loved it. Kirby Smart has been fantastic. I don't see him as much now. Saw him a lot in the spring when we were going to different events and donor meetings. But I think it's more than football. I think the sports there are fantastic. I mean, there's championship level coaches there, literally, figuratively, and ones that will be championship level. So I think when you've got that kind of passion for your sports, when you've got that kind of level of academics at your school and atmosphere for your school, there's no reason we can't be successful with it. So I've never looked at it as just being a football school. I've looked at it as being an incredible school for athletics and academics and a football program that sits really well at the front of the front porch. Mm-hmm. I like John. I think he's a good coach. I like him. I mean, we've been friends for some time. I've learned a lot from him. We competed at Marquette. We competed at Indiana when he was at Memphis and at Kentucky. And if we're not playing them, that's always a team that I watch. And it's always a team you can learn from. But he's a very good coach. Well, that was a complete train wreck because when we walked in there, we knew we were going on probation. We just didn't know to what level. And, I mean, we don't have enough time to go over all the things there. But I think the bottom line is the fans really helped us through that. I mean, they really helped us through that. And then the students helped us through that. And we never walked in trying to recruit to stay at the level that we were at when we walked in. We wanted to keep building it up. And we had some players like Christian Watford, who lives here in Birmingham, was one of the first major guys to say yes to us. Maurice Creek, who, if anybody remembers one of the Kentucky games, Joey might remember this, he had 31 points as a freshman against Kentucky, then had 3 major surgeries, you know, in his time. But we wanted to recruit to put ourselves in a position to not only compete, but to win the league. So that was a different story. This, we're inheriting some really good people. It's a different style of play, per se. You know, there we had 28 points, literally come back in one player. So whether it was scholarships or whether it was walk-ons, everything was different. And so there's no comparison to that. But this is one where we've just got to continue to help these guys grow in the way that we want to play, build on the character that's here as we recruit to the way we want to play and to the style of play that we want to have, but continue to help these guys that are the foundation of the program right now keep getting better and better inside of that. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.